Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:37 is the time. Let's get to my next guest. He's political editor of The New World. James Ball joins us. Happy New Year to you, James.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So I must ask you first of all about Venezuela. Nicolás Maduro appearing in court yesterday saying, I'm a prisoner of war. The Americans say, well, actually, you're a narco-terrorist and we've gone in and seized you under, because you're a fugitive from justice. Was Donald Trump right or wrong to do that?
I mean, he was wrong to do this, but let's be honest, none of us should be shedding a tear over Nicolás Maduro. He's a tyrant, he's a thug, he's broken far more laws than anyone else has. I won't be shedding all that many tears over him.
I don't understand this view. So it was wrong to do it, but it's the right thing. I don't understand. It's either right or wrong.
I don't think it works like that, though. There's a lot of dictators in the world, and we try and have some kind of system. You can't say that the law should apply to Maduro but not to Trump. If it was illegal to take him, then you have problems down the line.
No, because Donald Trump is a democratically elected leader, and
yes,
Maduro
but he was
is
democratically elected by the people of America, not the people of Venezuela.
Yeah.
America's jurisdiction doesn't extend globally.
Well, it does actually. They kind of decide that themselves.
Well, at that point, you've just given up and you've said might makes right. He isn't elected by the people of Venezuela.
I haven't given up.
By the people of Europe.
I recognise the reality. Yes, might rules. End of. Full stop.
Well, Maduro had the right to rule Venezuela by that system. No, he did.
Well, until someone else came along who was stronger.
Yeah, but that seems to be the system that you're going for. And
no, I'm not going for it. I'm just recognising that is we don't have a rules-based international system because not everybody obeys all the rules, because the bad people don't obey them. So all the good people supposedly obeying them really just makes us look like fools, because this ain't going to stop China invading Taiwan. It didn't stop Putin invading Ukraine, and it won't stop any other of the mean, the bad dictators doing what they want to do. So if it's a good thing that he's no longer in power and he's going to be tried in court, he's not just being shot in the head, he's being tried in a court in America, then surely that's a good thing.
I mean, your logic there is the same logic that goes, because the police are rubbish at stopping people mugging phones, we should both go out after this and nick a few iPhones. This is the logic of the bottom. I mean, I go against this on pragmatic terms. Point to me where we've had the US remove a dictator and it's gone well for anyone in the last 30 years, 50 years, 80 years. I think World War II was maybe the last time it worked out.
That is a fair point, but that's a different argument.
Well, no, I will say we shouldn't do it because it doesn't work, because there's no plan. This looks as good as it will ever look today, and even 40% of Republicans don't like it today.
Okay,
this has no mandate,
Venezuelans seem pretty sodding happy about it.
Some Venezuelans are very happy.
Most Venezuelans are happy about it, by all accounts.
If you look at the street protests, there's huge pro-Maduro ones,
well,
because
of course,
they're always
you're not going to be punished for doing that, are you? But you will be punished by the authorities in charge if you go against them. What do you make of Keir Starmer refusing to say whether the capture of Maduro broke international law or not? Yvette Cooper made a statement in the Commons. People are saying the Prime Minister should have made a statement, but the Foreign Secretary was there. But and she's gone perhaps as far as perhaps we would expect her to go in terms of, she said that the UK doesn't recognise the new Venezuelan government, but reality is, we didn't recognise the old one because we knew that he was not democratically elected. But should Keir Starmer sort of, if he is so obsessed as he claims with international law, should he say, I don't agree with this?
I think he's tied himself in a knot on this one, hasn't he? And I don't know why he's done it. I can completely see the logic of going, we need the US to be on board with Ukraine. We can't have them suddenly going, screw you all. So we're going to have to stay close, stay quiet, and suck it up. But if you're going to do that, and annoy lefties like me, if you're going to do that, why put in the statement that international law is really important? And they've done a classic Labour thing of we'll put in the statement that international law is really important, and then spend 3 days not answering whether or not we think this follows international law, even though everyone knows it doesn't. I mean, the US is barely trying to say it does. why do that? They've done the classic situation of just locking themselves into a line that pleases no one.
They're kind of the view, I think, that it's not about an international law. It's about criminality, and that we are talking about a narco-terrorist who's in cahoots with, the axis of evil, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, drug running, helping to fund Hezbollah and terrorist attacks by Iran. I mean, what's not to like, and therefore that he's been caught banged to rights. I mean, on behalf of people who don't want to be blown up when they go to a concert or get on the tube, I'm all in favour.
I think when you start doing unsanctioned, unreasoned, without any sort of support, foreign ventures like this, you don't reduce the risk of terrorism, you dramatically increase
When you say support, basically, if this had been agreed to by the UN Security Council, including Russia and China as permanent members, then it would be legal and okay. That's what you're saying.
Come on.
That's what you're saying.
Let's be honest, the UN Security Council is a joke, but this isn't even legal under US domestic law. This is absolute nonsense. And so this is just Trump liking a foreign adventure and liking to look like the big man. I don't think we have to I don't get the people going 4D chess. He's sort of planned this as some major oil industry thing. As far as I can tell, the oil industry is going, oh crap, we're going to have to go in this now. We don't want to go into Venezuela. This won't work. So I just think
I don't think that is what they're saying at all. They just want more assurances that their assets aren't going to be seized again.
Well, yes, and how does that assurance happen? Who defends it? Who backs it up?
I think the point is America is saying that they will defend it.
And what happens when Trump's presidency ends? Where's the track record of US investment in Venezuela?
That would be a criticism of any subsequent president for not doing that.
Well, I think that's why you make a plan before you suddenly invade and say you're running a country, isn't it?
What do you make of the threats to Greenland, of course, which is a territory of the Danes, who, of course, not just members of the EU, but also members of NATO, and that claim that, from the Danish Prime Minister, this would be the end of NATO if there were invasion of Greenland?
I mean, it feels like a statement of fact, doesn't it? It's complete bonkers. It's complete insanity that the US wants Greenland. Again, it is people having to try and put on some form of sanity or reasoning for what looks like an increasingly deranged and dictatorial president. There is no reason for the US to seize Greenland for security reasons. There's a reason it's never been on the agenda till now, and watching people having to try and backwards justify it because they like Trump is bizarre. The mental gymnastics involved are quite elaborate.
Okay. I mean, I don't see any justification for them invading. Absolutely not. It would be unacceptable to me, a democratic state. However, there are massive strategic concerns about the inroads being made by China and Russia, again, not just in South and Central America and Africa, but also in Greenland as well.
I mean, you usually deal with that by strengthening your alliances and strengthening your relationships. Greenland's had a very long history of allowing US bases, allowing US espionage efforts. Yeah. There's an amazing effort. The US tried to stage its nukes there once on a weird underground train, and turned out that icebergs move, and they hadn't factored for that. Turns out that that's a bad idea with nukes. So Greenland has put up with quite a lot of US security madness in the past, would in the future. It's not going to get easier when you're constantly threatening them. I mean, if there's a risk, it's that.
All right. Let's also talk about the protesters we've had back here. We had them, in America. We had them in Venezuela on both sides. It is extraordinary how much you've seen the people who were, from, 1 minute it's all free Palestine, suddenly, swapping their flags for free Maduro flags, and basically anything that's sort of anti-Trump, anti-America, anti-imperialist. If Trump's against it, they're on the side of it. But I mean, does this tally, given the subjugation he's put and the degradation he's imposed on the Venezuelan people? In fact, he's a drug trafficker. I mean, cause of an awful lot of evil in our world.
It does feel a bit selective, as if human rights abuse has only become visible if Donald Trump or if the West is involved. The very little outrage over Sudan, very little outrage over, what's happened post-Afghan fallback, Iran. Yes, it's a horrible double standard. It makes no sense. And Maduro, again, I kind of could not care less about him. He's done far more abuse than will ever happen to him. As you say, in many ways, it's more than he deserves. It just doesn't make it a good idea.
long term. Let's talk about something that is or is not a good idea. You and I disagree on this. Your political editor of the New World, what's called the New European. I mean, basically, as far as you guys are concerned, you know, the font of all goodness and light in the world is the European Union. You love a Brussels bureaucrat more than life itself. There's no doubt at all that our Prime Minister is a massive Ramona. He was a shadow Brexit secretary, spent 3 years after the 2016 referendum, gave a clear statement of the view of the British people, trying to undermine that view. Apparently, we just didn't really know what we were voting for because we were all a bit thick and a bit bigoted. He tried to have a second referendum to undermine that one before it even been imparted. Well, now he's basically going to go for what's called dynamic alignment with EU rules when it comes to agri-food, energy, you name it, where we're basically going to follow all of the rules of the EU so we can keep up and keep alongside, handing over the powers of our own elected representatives in Parliament and our own government to make our own rules as suits us. Is this basically ending Brexit by the back door?
I mean, I really wish Starmer was this arch pro-Remainer that you guys sort of think he is.
You think he isn't?
He was for a while, but God, they've sort of endlessly committed to red lines that I think are counterproductive. I would like us back in Europe. I don't think it's on the table.
No, we're in Europe. We're in Europe. We're in the continent of Europe.
I would like us back in the EU bloc. I think we have lost power. We have lost influence. We have really, when we need a new security alliance, when we need new relationships, we are on the periphery when we need to be in the centre.
You think
and that is bad.
We're leading the way on most of the major issues.
We're not even in SAFE. We're not even in the EU procurement stuff for this. We are on the edge of the strategic alliances, despite being one of two nuclear powers in Europe.
If and when Putin decides to go for anywhere else in Europe, they'll all be looking to us. Don't you worry.
Oh, they really won't, because come on, we can barely manage to. We can't build a tank that works at the moment. You know, we are not at the cutting edge of security. We've neglected this a
We're
long
way
time.
ahead of most of the European countries.
That is true.
I find it absolutely fascinating that you think that we're sort of so out in the cold. I mean, quite apart from the fact that we've got, you know, international trade deals with countries like India, we've got a better, well, if it ever actually happens, better tariff relationship with the US than the European Union managed. We kept being told all the power the European Union had, we'd have better deals with countries. Well, that's not been proven to be the case at all.
Well, where's these better deals post Brexit? You know, as you said, the key thing with the US one is where is it? The India deal seems to, I mean, it amounts to very, very little when you actually add up and look at it. Trade tends to be about who is near you. We are surrounded by EU nations. We don't have a neighbour that isn't in the EU, and most of this stuff is about goods. The dynamic alignment stuff that we were talking about, in practice, if you don't want checks on the border, you have to line up. The products have to match the standards of who you're selling them to. We have decided that's easier if we just have those standards. That's a choice we have made for ourselves.
If an American company or an Indian company or a Chinese company want to sell to the EU, they also have to do that. But that's up for that company to do that. It doesn't mean that our whole country has to align with EU rules because some companies are selling to the EU.
But they get checked as they go in, whereas we are much more integrated with them. We have traditionally sold a lot more to them, and this is essentially something we have decided will be a simpler way to be able to trade with them. And
you say we, the government has decided, but
yes.
But handing over our right to make our own laws about these things was something that British people decided in 2016.
Well, the difference is this isn't sort of in a treaty. This isn't bound forever. A new government can change it at any point that they want. And let's stress that with time limits, dynamic alignment was what Boris agreed in his Brexit deal and at each other stage.
For a short period.
Because it turns out that at each point you would end it, we will lose a lot of trade. We will have a new set of delays and issues at the border. And everyone's looked at it and gone, there is no benefit to not aligning.
Only because the EU creates that. Bearing in mind, the EU is where we got the horse meat in lasagnas from. So let's all stop pretending they make proper checks when they choose not to. James, we'll have to leave it there. Covered a lot of ground. Political editor of the New World. Thank you very much. Quick reaction from Tom Slater to that.
I just don't know why Labour rights people on the Liberal left still clinging to this. The idea that the EU is the answer to all that ails us economically is obviously nonsensical. And also, why would you want to reopen that democratic constitutional wound again just because you get a warm feeling?
They think it's bad for the right. It isn't. And also, really isn't. There was a referendum, we discussed it on the show yesterday, 100%, I'm telling you right now, but one of the options, one of the requirements will be we have to join the euro. British people are not going to join the EU if they have to be on the euro. Full stop, not going to happen. I'm like, We want another referendum. Bring it on. It'll be so much fun. And we'll be at the forefront of that campaign.